Hey Brew Tubers, Barry here. Happy Homebrew Wednesday. I'm sitting here drinking sjporr's Baltic Porter, which was bottled according to the cap of the sticker he put on March 29th of 2013, so about coming up on 11 months old, but at about 7.5%. It's still looking nice, and with a nice off-white, almost tan, like khaki head, a nice opaque black body, and a really nice dark chocolate aroma, and a really nice dark chocolate taste, and a little bit of dark fruit, and maybe a little bit of espresso coffee in there. Really good beer, and I love the label because it says enjoy the fruits of your labor and brew beer. So before I give you some updates, I'll just shoot you over to some clips of that I filmed over the past few days. One I filmed before this video is an update on my triple, and the other video, which I'll probably post first, is the wax dipping of my English Barleywine, which, you know, I tried, it's carbonated, and now I decided to wax dip all the rest of the bottle. So here, go over those clips, and then we'll be back with some updates. Hey Brew Tubers, Barry here. So after trying my barley wine a few times, I know that it's tasting okay, and it's still very oak forward, but you know, I've had a bunch of local homebrewers try it at 2 different homebrew bottle shares, so I know that it's off to a good start. So I'm wax dipping it. I bought these green, because my wife's favorite color is green, bottle seal wax beads. It was pretty expensive, but thought, you know, I didn't want to try to make the makeshift one with, like, I think people use glue for a glue gun and crayons. I didn't want to mess around with that. I wanted to do the real deal. So I've been waxing a few bottles already just to get the rhythm going. I think I've been having to really dip each bottle a few times to get it to form a nice coating. And then when there's, you know, pieces that drip down and off, in order to, even though it looks really cool, I'm throwing them back into the can here, where I melted down the wax, just to, you know, save wax, just to make sure I don't run out. So I'm doing the first box I have of bottles first, which has the bombers and some of the 12 ounces, and then I'll get to the 12 ounces, and I'm going to do most of them. Some of them I want to let oxidize a little bit, but most of them I just want the beer to mature on its own and not have oxygen play such a huge role. Even though it did darken up from the oak aging. So anyway, dark beers or malty beers in general age well. But for now, I'm just gonna, you know, wax like 85 or 90% of them. So let's go ahead. I'll show you another few bottles, and then when I'm done, I'll show you what they all look like, and maybe, you know, take the camera off the tripod and show you a little more up close what it all looks like. But so you dip it in, you spin it a few, you know, a little bit, just to make sure all the sides get coated, and then you take it out and you spin it as it comes out so that it doesn't drip everywhere, even though it has dripped a little bit. Alright guys, so for a close-up, I ended up using my black Sharpie to write 2014 on the first bottles. So something I realized when I got to these bottles that you see here is that once it cools down enough that you only have to do 1 coat. So I said before, you might have to dip twice. I'm going to strike that off the record, because if it gets cool enough, you just have to dip it once, and it gets pretty darn thick, as you see here. These bottles actually look a little better than the other bottles. So I'm going to go ahead and keep doing this, but, you know, also make sure you have a rod or a piece of wood or something that you can ruin, you know, with the wax. You know, you might be able to flake some of it off, but I'm using this to stir when it starts getting clumpy on me. So I might lose a little wax to this, but, you know, as long as I can get all the bottles waxed, I'm okay. So that's just what they look like, you know, when the wax is, you know, thicker and you only have to dip it once. These still have a pretty nice coating, but it was a little harder to get. These were more immediate. So again, let it cool down, not too much to where it's hard to dip into and your bottles are sticking to the bottom of the can like a few of mine did, and then I had to reheat it. But heat it up, you know, till all the wax is melted, let it cool down for a minute or two, and then try a few bottles, and if it's not getting thick enough with the first coat, of course do another one, but then wait another minute or so and then try again. But overall, you know, this is the way to do it if you buy the sealing wax. Hey BrewTubers, Barry here. So I'm just going to give you a quick update on my triple. Not, you know, not much a huge update, but enough to tell you what's going on. So as you see here on my STC 1000, the temperature is a bit higher because on Saturday night I was getting, you know, a little anxious. Should I warm it up now? It's been 6 days, da 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 da. So I was reading homebrew talk threads and saw that people, you know, warmed it up even earlier. So I was speaking to Chris Wilson, the brewmaster of Weyerbacher Brewing Company from Easton, Pennsylvania, online on Facebook, and he said, you know, warm it up already. You want to warm it up when there's still a good amount of fermentation activity, so it's still chugging away or bubbling, you know, a fairly good amount. So what I did was I upped it to about 72 from about where it was at the time at 69, because I was keeping it between, you know, like I said, just below 68 and just below 70. So it took about 16 hours to warm up to 72. So, you know, not to shock the yeast. So I let it warm up on its own, and then I set it now, and then I set it between about 70.5 and 72.3 from like Sunday evening all day Monday until Monday night, where now it's between like 71 and just below 73. So I like to keep like a 1.8 degree range, you know, on the fermentation. And I think that I'm not going to raise it anymore. Some people would, because the yeast can tolerate 78 degrees Fahrenheit, but you know, right now I think it's good enough, and I really don't want to make it too phenolic or spicy. So this is what it looks like now. There's still a really nice bubbly foam krausen on top, and as you can see, it went through the blow off, and I've smelled the blow off jar, or whatever you want to call it, last night, and it smells like it's giving off some nice phenols. So should definitely have that spiciness that I'm looking for. And you know, at the end of day 8, when I'm filming this on Tuesday night, it's still bubbling, you know, every 5-7 seconds. So it's still, after 8 days, still fermenting. You know, I thought the Belgian yeast, you know, would finish bubbling, you know, pretty quickly, but apparently not. So I was planning, it's a big beer anyway, so I was planning on leaving it in there for at least 2-3 weeks. So yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. But that's the update. You know, I'm just gonna let it keep fermenting until it, you know, really slows down more, and then I'm gonna transfer it to secondary, just to, not for really not because I'm adding anything, but because, you know, want it to clear out a little bit before I bottle it. So I'll probably just leave it, you know, at a lower temperature, maybe 68 or so for a week, or maybe a little lower, just to clear out a tiny bit. I don't want to cold crash it because I'm going to bottle condition it, but you know, but I want it to clear out a tiny bit in secondary. So Yeah, so that's the update on my triple for now, and let's go back to the regular scheduled HBW. Cheers. Alright guys, so for some updates, well, I want to talk a little bit about the sjporr challenge, but I just want to show you a couple things. I got 2 new brewing books to add to my collection, both of which I've wanted for quite a while. The first one, which many of you probably have, is called Brewing Classic Styles. It has 80 award-winning recipes, and well, I don't know if I'll actually brew any of these to the exact specifications in the book. A lot of people use these recipes as like a base to whatever they brew. Like meaning they look at the recipe and say, oh, I see why they put those malts and hops in. They explain it really well in the book, and then they use that some of the recipe in their own recipe and then tweak it to their liking. So I'm looking forward to using it as I brew more beer. And then the second beer is called Radical Brewing by Randy Mosher. It's another classic home brewing book, and it goes through a lot of traditional beer styles, some traditional but not so common beer styles, and it should be pretty cool as I make some newer beers and try with it has a section on and using non-traditional ingredients too, so it'll really get me give me the information that I need to brew more creative beers, especially like when it comes down to this coming fall of 2014 when I rebrew my breakfast stout. I'll be using both of these books to make sure I'm doing everything correctly. And then to go on to the sjporr challenge, Kevin Clements asked me to do an intro. So once we have sponsors, it'll be easier for me to create. But I have some ideas already, so it should be pretty cool. And then for my beer, I've told 2 or 3 of you. I told SJ and maybe 1 or 2 other guys, sort of what my idea is. All what I'll tell you guys in a public forum on YouTube is that it's gonna be a hoppier beer. And I spoke to Yakima Valley Hops, and they said they would send me one of the hops that I'm going to use, but so I told them to tack it on to an order I made, because they said they wouldn't send me one of the hops because it cost them too much money this year for the 2013 harvest, but they didn't. So instead of calling them back and saying, oh, you said you would send me this variety, I went into my freezer and said, you know what, I have a ton of hops there already. Let me just pick a couple to sub in, and we'll see how it goes. So, most of the recipe will be, my original idea, and then I'll just tweak the hops a little bit, to what I have in the freezer, and then we'll see how it comes out. But I'm really looking forward to getting my triple done, and then after that, I'll decide when exactly I'm going to brew the sjporr beer, because it's going to be kind of iffy, because at the end of May, closer to when I have to ship to SJ, I'm going on vacation for a week to LA for a friend's wedding / a little R&R with my wife in California. So I don't know exactly how it's going to work, but I'll have to bottle before I leave, and then ship to SJ like a few days after I get back. So we'll see, how that works out. But that's all I have for this week. I'm not going to be brewing again until my fridge frees up, so I don't have any immediate dates. So I'm planning on brewing next day, but at least I have the sjporr beer to look forward to. Whether I brew that next or something else next, but as long as I'm brewing, that's what matters. So happy Homebrew Wednesday. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys' preparation for the sjporr challenge and whatever brews you're having the works, and keep on enjoying the fruits of your labor and brew awesome beer and any other fermentables you like, wine, meat, all that good stuff. Cheers.